March 1943, North Africa, where the wind whips sand across endless dunes and the sun beats down like a hammer on steel. It was here, among the arid hills of Tunisia, that the young American army, bloodied and humbled just weeks before, would rise from defeat to deliver one of its first true victories of World War II. This was the Battle of El Guettar, a moment when untested U.S. soldiers stood their ground against the legendary Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox himself. A battle where superior American firepower, courage, and grit turned the tide and proved to the world that the United States Army could fight and win against the best. Before El Guettar, there was Kasserine Pass, a bitter lesson in blood. In February 1943, American forces had faced the Germans in open desert for the first time and lost. Rommel's seasoned veterans sliced through the inexperienced U.S. lines, scattering men and machines in a storm of chaos. Thousands were killed, captured, or forced into retreat. The Desert Fox had humiliated the newcomers, but in the aftermath of that defeat, something changed. General Dwight D. Eisenhower replaced weak leadership. Major General Lloyd Fredendall was relieved of command, and a new leader took charge of Second Corps, George S. Patton, Jr. Patton demanded discipline, speed, and pride. He turned raw troops into fighting men, every uniform pressed, every rifle spotless, every soldier ready. The message was clear. We may have lost once, but never again. By March, the Americans were ready. Their next stand would be in a place few had ever heard of, a small valley near a dusty village called El Guettar. El Guettar sat in a narrow valley of scrub brush, cactus, and dry ravines, an unlikely place to make history. Surrounding it were steep ridges, perfect for artillery positions. To the west lay the mountain passes that Rommel's forces could use to attack. The American 1st Infantry Division, known as the Big Red One, dug in, supported by the 9th Infantry Division and armored units. The men fortified the hills with 105mm howitzers, M10 tank destroyers, and miles of interlocking minefields. The Germans, under Rommel's command, had been retreating from their failed attempt to break through at Medellin. Now the Desert Fox wanted revenge, and he intended to crush the Americans before withdrawing toward the coast. He would attack El Guettar on the morning of March 23, 1943. The morning was still and gray. A thin mist hung over the valley as American gunners checked their ranges one last time. In the distance came a low rumble, like distant thunder. Then the horizon erupted. German Mark III and Mark IV tanks advanced in formation, engines growling, cannons flashing. Rommel had unleashed the 10th Panzer Division, a hammer blow of 50 tanks and infantry. They rolled forward confident. After all, just weeks earlier, American troops had fled before them. Surely this would be another easy victory. But this time, the Americans didn't run. From the ridge lines, hundreds of U.S. artillery pieces opened fire. The earth shook. Shells screamed through the air and exploded among the advancing tanks, turning desert sand into plumes of fire and steel. The Germans had never faced such precise, concentrated artillery before. The Americans were no longer the green soldiers of Kasserine. They had learned, and learned fast. From every ridge and ravine, the thunder of American guns echoed. Battery after battery of 105mm howitzers, 155mm tank destroyers, and 75mm anti-tank guns rained destruction. Forward observers crouched in foxholes with binoculars and radios called out targets with deadly accuracy. On target, fire for effect! Rommel's tanks tried to push through, but the ground was mined, and the approach channels were narrow. One by one, the panzers hit mines or were crippled by direct hits from American tank destroyers. By mid-morning, burning German armor littered the desert floor. The attack had been stopped cold. The 601st Tank Destroyer Battalion alone destroyed more than 30 enemy tanks that day. American gunners, working with deadly precision, turned their artillery into a wall of fire that Rommel himself could not penetrate. For the first time in North Africa, the Desert Fox's offensive had failed completely. As the smoke cleared, the Americans seized their moment. Patton's men counterattacked through the valley, advancing cautiously but steadily. Infantry squads pushed forward, clearing out German stragglers, while engineers dismantled mines to open paths for armor. The terrain was brutal. Rocky slopes, thorny brush, and sniper fire from every ridge. But the men pressed on. The Big Red One advanced yard by yard, supported by the steady rhythm of artillery behind them. For every German shell, 10 American rounds answered. By the next day, the battlefield was littered with twisted metal, destroyed tanks, and shattered guns. Rommel's 10th Panzer Division was broken. The Desert Fox himself withdrew soon after, his reputation bruised, his forces mauled. The men at El Guettar had done what many thought impossible. They had stopped Erwin Rommel. The cost had been high, hundreds of American casualties, but the victory was complete. For the first time, American troops had faced the full power of the German army in open combat and won. El Guettar became a turning point. The victory shattered the myth of German invincibility. It boosted Allied morale across every front. From that point on, American troops no longer doubted themselves. Their artillery had proven decisive. The best coordinated, most powerful firepower Rommel had ever faced. In his post-battle reports, even German officers admitted they were stunned by the precision and intensity of American guns. Rommel later wrote that the U.S. artillery was magnificent, methodical, devastating. It was in every sense a victory of preparation, courage, and technological might. El Guettar was not the largest battle of World War II, nor the most famous. But for the U.S. Army, it marked the birth of confidence. The lessons learned in the Tunisian desert would shape every American campaign that followed. From Sicily and Normandy to the Rhine and beyond, artillery coordination, forward observation, combined arms tactics, these became hallmarks of U.S. warfare. At El Guettar, the Americans proved that discipline and innovation could overcome experience and reputation. They had faced the Desert Fox and stopped him. They had met fear and conquered it. Today, the hills of El Guettar are quiet. Wind whistles through the valleys where once the earth shook from cannon fire. Rusting tank tracks and fragments of shrapnel lie buried beneath the sand. But for those who fought there, the memory never faded. It was the place where ordinary soldiers became warriors, where the Big Red One found its fire, where America, for the first time in the Desert War, stood tall and unbreakable. The Battle of El Guettar was more than a victory, it was a declaration, a promise that no matter the odds, no matter the enemy, the United States would fight, adapt, and prevail. And on that March morning in 1943, in the heart of Tunisia, the sound of those American guns echoed across history, the thunder that announced America's rise as a world power and the end of the Desert Fox's reign. If you enjoyed this story of American courage and victory, be sure to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to the American Combat Chronicles channel for more true stories of bravery, sacrifice, and triumph from the battlefields of history. Your support helps keep these stories alive for the heroes who fought and for the generations who will remember them.